we'll go ahead and call the December 18th ORP Task Force meeting to order. So Elizabeth, can you call the roll?
Ms. Robeson?
Here.
Dr. Horzelski?
Here.
Ms. Doucette?
Here.
Dr. Fountain?
Here.
Mr. Fleming?
Here.
Mr. Herbold?
Here.
Dr. Young? Mr. Labriere?
Here.
Dr. Singh?
Here.
Dr. Oder?
Here.
Ms. Baker?
Here.
Mr. Roche?
Here.
Dr. Bryant? Dr. Dooms?
Here.
Dr. Arbuthnot?
Here.
Dr. Young? Dr. Rusev?
Here. All right, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead. The minutes were provided to you in email yesterday. I'll open up a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, and a second? All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move into the meat of this whole thing. The discussion of report recommendations. In addition to the minutes and the agenda you received yesterday, there was a draft report sent with a write-up on the recommendations. And so before we get into the recommendations, I know there were some questions and comments sent to the report. So go ahead if we want to have any discussion on that. Chantel, you had sent some first, so any questions you have that we want to discuss as a group on that?
No, I think Trey answered some of them. I did ask if we could, I don't know when you're actually gonna give the report, but I think it'd be nice since the first deadline for the ORP transfer is 12/31, if we could provide that number in the report rather than the number that we currently have.
Yeah, the report's due January 10th, so maybe at the end of this, I was gonna make a recommendation that we allow staff to make technical changes because if anything needs to be updated. So Trey, if that's something that we'd be able to get within that week, okay, or whatever the latest is, then we can update that number. And then see, I think there was a question on, and this may have been me just getting it wrong in the first paragraph on page 2.
Yeah, the way I read that, I think the current process is they're in the defined benefit plan, but then they can make an election to move to the ORP plan. So this kind of, to me, gave the indication that they're making that either or at the time of hire, when it's really they're defaulted and you're making an election to move out of the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, they have the 5 years,
Right, yeah.
make the choice.
Yeah, and what I was trying to say was before the enactment of the new bill, you had
You had that, even before the enactment of the new bill, you had 5 years to choose to go into the ORP. You vaulted into the DB, you had up to 5 years to choose ORP.
oh, okay.
But not the other way around.
Got it. Okay, cool.
But if you make the selection immediately, then yes, you're stuck in the ORP.
So Trey, if you want to send me the correct way to say that, then
Do you have the comment that I've,
yes, they default into DB plan until they reach 5 years of service credit.
they have until they reach 5 years of service credit to choose to go into the ORP.
Okay. That'll be something I just work with you on just to make sure I have it.
But then they lose those, the amount which was
So
for
they have. Yes, it depends on what we're trying to focus on with that statement. But yes, if you make the selection within the first 60 days, employee and employer contributions move over. If you make it after 60 days, then just the employee contributions move over to the ORP.
So probably we should add that too, like for clarification.
Maybe as a footnote.
Yes, we can do that.
Fine.
Okay. We'll add a note. What was the comment you want noted?
That if they make the switch, if the switch is made in the first 60 days, then both the employer and employee contributions, they shift to TRSL.
Okay,
If the switch is made between 61st day to 5 years, then only the employee contribution goes to.
Got it, okay.
It's just those 60 days. I think it's really weird because it's just a fine.
What do you need to, maybe? So,
So for clarification, because it is an awkward concept in the sense that it needs to be stated in black and white. If I was in one set and I'll move, say it 3.5 years, am I still only losing those first 60 days of employer? I'm
No,
gonna
you
lose
lose it
all
all.
3.5.
yeah.
All, yeah, so that's the part of the footnote
Right.
that needs to be in there, so that's the concept that's weird in the sense of, yes, so it's very limiting in and almost really confining feeling when you're like, well, you only have 60 days, or your 5 years of whatever is out the window kind of, so that footnote needs to be in there explicit.
Well, and there's one more footnote, and not all staff and faculty are offered teachers when they're hired. There's a large percentage that are not.
Yes.
And then once they get to the 2-year mark, then they're offered or, defaulted into, if they didn't choose ORP.
So it looks like it needs to be a footnote of.
So for those first
multiple
2 years, they have
detail.
no retirement?
They can choose ORP or Social Security in our
Okay.
system.
Yeah.
At LSU, and I believe at the UL system, you also choose deferred comp. That's your other choice.
So it sounds like 3 people need to be, 3 heads together to create those footnotes properly.
Okay. It's a little piece there.
Yeah.
It is very.
No, I'm glad you put it out there. As we talk about making sure information is out there, this is the perfect avenue to do it. Okay, okay. I think that was really it in there's some comments later on that we can get to. But I'll go ahead into the discussion of report recommendations. And what we'll do is, for each recommendation, we'll take a vote on, to include it or not. A vote yes would be to include it, a vote no would be not. We're all together on it, and we won't have to count it, but if there is a no, we'll have to make sure we count the votes for that one. So into the first one, provide ORP eligibility to certain employees within the Louisiana Community and Technical College system. This is something we've talked about a few times now. And I think we have everything correct in here, that just changing the statute to mention, Nina, correct me here, public institutions of higher education instead of post-secondary institutions?
I think add post-secondary.
Add post-secondary,
Got it.
that it would include post-secondary and higher education. Some of our entities were established as a post-secondary
Okay.
in their statute.
Okay, got it, post-secondary institution, okay. And I have that written in there. All right, any discussion or comment on this recommendation? All right, a motion to include it on this one?
Make a motion to include the statement post-secondary institution.
All right, and a second?
A second.
Gina, okay, all in favor, say aye. All right, all opposed? All right, perfect. All right. The next one is increase the irrevocable decision timeframe from currently 5 years as a result of Act 109 of 2024 to 7 years to align with tenure decisions. Any discussion on this recommendation?
Two quick questions.
Sure.
Is it clear in that the irrevocable timeframe would be increased for all employees, regardless of which plan they selected or whether they're faculty or non-faculty?
We can add a bullet to say that, This would be for all employees, not just,
I,
faculty was what I focused on when I
Well,
when I
sure,
wrote this
yeah.
out, but
that's the logic behind it,
Yeah.
but for equity reasons, I think it should be for everyone.
Yeah.
And administratively, it'd be a lot easier.
Well, yeah.
On the second bullet, you
Mhm.
can put after the comma, faculty and,
okay, faculty,
and all employees or all. Faculty and staff.
Yeah.
All employees, however you want to.
say unclassified staff.
I think my second question is clarified already within the bullet.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if somebody were just, like I may have done myself, making a cursory glance at it, they might say, 5 to 7 in line with tenure, but tenure is usually awarded 6. But it's clearly stated in the bullet, so I think that makes sense.
Okay,
I think too, that's an audience issue. I think the legislature receiving the report won't have that thought.
Right.
So I think the explanation is fine as it is.
But we rounded it up to 7 because tenure conversation starts in January of your 6th year, but you're not approved by the board until August.
Right.
So you're actually in the academic year of your 7th year of
Okay.
employment.
Yeah, that's why we're there.
So that's why we put a round number of 7.
okay,
Just a small suggestion. Sure. So for the first bullet point, it nowhere mentions about the teaching or educational mission. So maybe we can say faculty who are newly hired in tenure track positions produce research and public service and contribute to the educational mission
okay.
of the institution.
Yeah, I saw that too. It's research, teaching and service. It's all the 3.
Forget my non-faculty brain on the,
And as undergrad, primarily undergrad institutes, education is first.
Yep.
Teaching, research, service.
there,
I just want to mention that I discussed this point with some of my faculty colleagues and they brought up the concern that Act 109 was neutral for faculty and staff. But this recommendation is too much of pro-faculty. It will sound to the state as if like something is being done extraordinarily for the faculty to help them from the 5th to 7th year. I'm not too much concerned about it, but like some faculty members were concerned about it, that the optics may not be. If we can somehow say about faculty and staff both, maybe that would be better, but I
I
think.
think you're right, except for the fact, remember the original conversation for the House bill was to retain your talent in our state, primarily focusing on STEM institutions. Doesn't mean that we're not wanting to retain talent across the board. So it's just a bullet, not the whole thing, but in the opening and closing of the report needs to have that inclusiveness, no doubt.
I agree, and I think it waters down the justification, which is the alignment with tenure decisions. There is a rationale that is specifically staff are not tenured.
Right.
So
This is this recommendation is specifically targeted at, but the time frame would be open to all.
any other discussion on this?
Matt?
Yeah.
I don't know how you're recording votes, but depending on how you are, I'm abstaining from voting, so.
Right, yeah, and you're ex officio, so
Okay, so I wasn't sure if I had to.
noted. You wouldn't
I
have got
wouldn't
to
get an
vote
option
anyway,
anyway. Perfect.
just the way you like it. All right, so do I have a motion to, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. All right, so a motion to include the increase of the decision from 5 to 7.
Second,
And a second, all right.
On this one.
Yeah,
What's that?
make sure you read abstentions, yay,
Yes.
nays and abstentions.
Trey will be, you're
Abstaining on this.
abstaining from this one, okay? So all in favor of including this as a recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? All right, and note that Trey has abstained for that one. All right. The next one is, let's see. ORP membership participation in TRSL board. So we're gonna take these as 2 separate votes. The first one is the creation of an advisory committee of ORP members to inform the TRSL board about ORP terms, vendor selection, investments, as well as provide updates to the ORP membership. We had a lengthy discussion about this one in the last meeting, and the meeting before that as well. I'm just trying to get some ORP representation involved with the TRSL. In addition to just going to a board meeting and providing comment. Is there any discussion on this recommendation?
If I can suggest like the third bullet point.
Yep.
When we say that the creation of an ORP committee within the Association of Louisiana Faculty Senate. I think Phil and I were trying to convey that that organization is a pretty loose structure.
Yeah,
Okay,
Right,
yeah.
right, I would remove that.
okay,
Maybe we can say ORP committee with the help of faculty and staff senates.
okay.
Well, we were still, actually went higher than that, and we were doing the system. I don't think we should put the faculty senate on there at all.
No,
And
right,
as a past president for 5 years, we got lots of years in here.
yeah.
I'd say I wouldn't put the word faculty senate on this piece of paper at all.
I agree.
I would have it the directive of the system.
Yeah,
No, we
Okay.
finally agreed for the system. I was going the way the thought process was.
Yeah,
So if we want to, I don't think we should mention Association of
Okay,
Louisiana Faculty.
so we'll
Senate
just
without-
say creation of an ORP committee, which could then represent ORP members' interests. Okay. So I'll delete within association.
and a friendly comment at the top of this bullet, capitalize the word board, because you capitalize TRLS board later, so
Okay.
capital board up there.
So then for that one, so this would, the advisory committee, we go further to say, would include 2 members from each system, 1 faculty, 1 staff. Selected by the system president.
Correct.
And then 1 member selected by the Commissioner of Higher Education to represent ORP members not included by a college university system. We're good on that grouping committee structure?
I can also suggest that fourth bullet point, when we say creation of advisory committee of ORP members to inform the TRSL board. I don't think like they can inform, like they can only discuss. It's the TRSL which has already decided these things for
Yeah.
ORP. So we can say like ORP members to discuss with the TRSL board about ORP terms and so on.
Fine by then. Anybody else have a,
No, I'm looking for where it says inform, but I agree, remove that word,
Right under recommendation 1.
okay,
Yeah.
or that's what you're
Oh,
calling
okay.
fourth bullet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, change the word inform,
to discuss?
we will wish we had that much power, but inform means that you get to have some control. This is a conversation, not a.
Could save and form for the next recommendation. All right,
I
Yeah.
meant to unbold the word recommendations only because when you look at the structure.
okay. Yeah, that was, I was trying to make a,
Underline
it's a
it,
recommendation and then,
you could underline them.
okay. Okay,
Well, this will also be formatted, so.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Make it shiny.
Yeah,
yeah.
Regents communication staff will make it much prettier than what.
I'll see,
He sent the draft this morning, the
Yeah.
layout this morning, so.
yeah, it'll look very different. Sorry. Try and, I'll pull that up for at the end. so
Okay.
y'all can visually see what that. looks
Okay,
like.
perfect. Good. Any other discussion on this recommendation?
Well, I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay.
Maybe Kenneth can say if he thinks it's necessary. If we need to have justification in why we think this recommendation of a committee and a board would be valid.
Hmm.
We have to explain our way to why this is a strong recommendation.
Well,
First,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
order
Kind of
of
says-
kind of gets the background of why the recommendation is being made.
Yeah, but we know that's a fact, not a reasoning for the creation of the committee. The second bullet just says I'm gonna become a member, or they'll be there, and then. There's no statement anywhere here. I'm trying to figure out where to put it instead. There's no statement in here about the decades of feeling of disconnect. Therefore, the committee came up with a suggestion of having representation on the board. Due to the years of disconnect.
That could be added to that first bullet point.
Yeah, it needs to be somewhere at the top of the reason of why we
Okay.
had this conversation, besides we just had one.
That there has been concern for decades that there's been no representation, something
Yeah,
like that.
yes.
Okay,
And it can be very vague, right? It can be a vague statement, but it needs to be there.
With the fifth bullet point, recommendation 2, through legislative instrument, add a member to the TRSL board would be elected by active ORP members and willing to take a fiduciary responsibility.
yeah, well, we'll get to that one after.
Oh, okay. I
I
thought.
wanted to take them separate, just so we.
Oh, okay, because they're intermingled, so.
Yeah,
So should we mention how many members will be in the advisory committee?
Or is it 2 from each system plus 1 from the board?
say,
So,
So
I
nine.
mean, we could say 9,
That would be
committee of
9.
9 ORP members, okay. Just to make it noted there. Gotcha. All right, any further discussion? Right. I'll entertain a motion to include recommendation 1 of the ORP membership participation in TRSL board. All right, and a second, okay. Let's see, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Trey, was that, are you abstaining?
Nope.
Nope, not, okay,
Watch this now.
okay, I just wanna make sure. I should have,
Give it again.
Yeah,
I should have put a little sign for you, just. Okay,
we'll be abstaining on the next.
okay, okay,
Oh, yeah, we have a committee, but not a party.
all right. Let's see, okay, recommendation 2 within ORP membership participation. Through a legislative instrument, add a member to the TRSL board who would be elected by active ORP members. This member would have the same responsibilities, including fiduciary duties
Correct.
as current members.
Correct.
Are you fine with it saying that?
Yeah.
Including
Okay.
fiduciary.
Same responsibility and fiduciary?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any discussion on recommendation 2? Dr. Oder, I know you had, does that?
that was it.
Okay,
That was it.
okay,
Just to make sure that people are aware, because that's a pretty big responsibility.
it is, yes. Any other discussion on this one? Okay. Let's see, so if anybody wants, let's see, I make a motion that we include recommendation 2 within the membership participation in TRSL board. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to recommend, recommendation 2.
Okay, and a second? Okay, Jeannie, and Trey has abstained from, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't voted yet, sorry.
I will abstain.
Yes, got it. All right, all those in favor of including recommendation 2 within the ORP membership participation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Okay, moving on. Let's see, a recommendation to increase employer contributions to ORP accounts. So as we discussed, over the last 2 meetings, employers now pay 6.2% on behalf of the employee into their account. We do know that based on the NASRA presentation that we are towards the very bottom among, when we look at SEC schools, and that we're the only one in the South that doesn't contribute to Social Security. So there is, let's see, oh, and So the recommendation originally was, with the constitutional amendment that passed in the session, it will be voted on by this, by the state. There is the potential for some savings for employers. So any savings that is available, we would ask that institutions use that to increase the employer contribution. And then Chantel, is this your recommendation?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I asked for some tweaks to the first one and then I think we discussed having two recommendations in this
did.
area.
Okay,
I just got a text, so, dealing with social security, the Senate is set to vote on HR 82 at 1 o'clock today.
okay,
Trump came out in favor of it.
okay.
Well,
So
Share that with the group.
Matt,
that may be something we just add a note at the bottom and say like, at the conclusion of our work, our good work, the Senate felt it, Congress acted on it, and some of the stuff we discussed.
That will change the president-elect's mind.
Right. All good. Yeah, go ahead.
on the fourth bullet, we say could, should that be should, if it's our recommendation?
That's in the new part, or?
Any savings that are recognized and
Top
remain in
of
the
page
higher ed
7.
budget,
Oh, okay.
could,
No, yeah, it's stronger as should.
Yeah,
I just wanna know if it's our recommendation to.
Well,
I don't think unless you printed it right before you left, I don't know that they have the.
Oh, you said the same.
let's see, well,
I see he does.
So-
here.
so the proposed edit to this would be, it is recommended that any savings that are recognized remain in the higher education budget, and a portion of the savings be used by institutions to increase employer contributions to ORP
That
accounts.
addresses my,
Okay,
that's perfect.
Okay.
I didn't want to just watch the wording because
Yeah, no.
all of the legislatures say that you can only use these funds for this, and so it leaves it open where part of it.
Portion of it.
Sounds good. Chantel, do you wanna just give everybody an overview on your proposed recommendation to this?
I didn't print it out, so I left it on the printer, but I didn't think that the recommendation stressed enough. To me, the ORP plan wouldn't be bad if you had social security and you had a decent employer contribution, then it would be just like any other institution that you run into. So I think stressing the fact that social security is not an option for our employees and the fact that it's only a 6.2% contribution is what makes the ORP plan not as attractive as an ORP plan in other institutions. So I wanted to make sure that and also from an equity perspective, because some institutions have more revenue sources than others, I wouldn't want LSU to be able to, I mean, I would love for LSU to be able to pay more, but I know there's other higher education institutions. So I think by increasing the floor that's written in legislation to at least an employer match that are the same, so 8%, at least is better by changing the legislation to say it should be the same.
So the legislation that created the 6.2 could be changed to 8.
Yes.
Sure.
So
And
that
then
was
still
my
keep in the
second
language
bullet.
that if anybody wants to go above that,
Yes.
they still
Yeah.
can. And so, Kenny, I might have a question for you. An increase, there would be no actuarial cost. This is just
increasing the social security minimum or the
ORP.
ORP minimum? No. there's no-
Okay.
no,
that's just a
that's
budget cost too. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. So
So
we'll,
I have a question.
yeah, sure.
So historically, like what was our highest rate, like before 6.2%? Like if you can mention some information there, like what it was and it has decreased 6.2%, not very long ago, right? Like maybe like
Yes,
8 9
so-
years ago.
It was in 2017,
So
fiscal year 18.
It fluctuated.
Yeah, it used to mirror whatever the normal cost was for the benefit. And so in 2014, a bill was passed to slowly increase it, to get us to 6.2.
So
Readily then.
TRSL website.
Yeah.
We can put a table in to show what the rates have been historically.
Yeah,
too. We'll add that as an
It would be
appendix.
nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've got charts on our website.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Right.
It should all be.
Yeah, so any of the graphics that makes your audience, the reader, more understanding at the moment
Okay.
of, put them in the
Yep,
appendix.
okay.
That's great. Thank you. Sure, I'm pulling the wrong. The correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on increasing ORP contributions?
No, I fully support what Chantal has said,
Okay.
because in principle, it's still possible that in future it even goes lower.
If you go to our website under the employer tab.
Yep.
And there's a contribution rates, and that has. Historical.
I have a minor tweak.
Yeah, sure.
Under bullet point two, under increase employer contributions to ORP amounts.
Well,
Just the language is a little clunky to me. Louisiana is the only SEC school. I mean, Louisiana is a lot of things, and we are in the southeastern region, but I think a more generic language
Okay,
saying the only state in the southeastern
Yeah,
region of
so
the
we'll-
country that does not contribute to social security.
got it.
And that way everybody's under the tent.
like 1, 2 of 50 states.
We're one of 7.
7,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great.
We're one of 7 that's majority of the people don't. Every state has some groups that
Yeah.
don't.
You need water? Okay.
Yeah, they get me all of that.
Similar to the last recommendation, we're gonna take 2 votes on this one on recommendation 1, which is just to allow institutions to, we would recommend that any savings retained be allowed to be used for this. So do I have a motion to add the first recommendation of increasing employer contributions? All right, and a second?
Abstain.
Okay, Grace abstaining from this one, and so, all in favor of including the first recommendation that would increase employer contributions, say aye. All opposed? Okay. We'll move on to the second recommendation within increasing employer contributions. And this would be to establish a minimum rate of 8% for employer contributions to ORP account. So do I have a motion to include that recommendation? So moved. Okay,
Second.
all right.
Abstain on this one too.
Okay, staying. So all in favor of including recommendation 2 for increasing employer contributions, say aye. All opposed? All right. Moving right along to the next recommendation. This is to request a legislative study of a phased retirement program. So during the last meeting, Dr. Singh kind of touched on what this could do and how this could benefit the institutions. And we found some information on public institutions that do offer this, but this is something that has to be studied further because this has some, depending on if you include ORP only or if you include those that are in the DB plan, there's a lot that needs to go into this. So the way the recommendation is written in here is that it would be, we would study a recommendation to study the feasibility of such program for ORP and DB members. The study would include representatives that would be a human resource representative from each system, a faculty rep from each system, an academic affairs rep from each system, TRSL staff, and an actuary from the legislative audit office. This group would consider the following areas: the structure of programs in other states, eligibility requirements of a program in Louisiana, the time period for phased retirement, and then how salary and retirement benefits would be received during this period. Let's see. Yes, so that's all with that one. Any questions or discussion on this recommendation? Knocked it out the park with this
I was gonna say, I think I'm again on the first bullet,
one.
to strengthen the value of having this conversation. So it says, it says on benefits such as institutional knowledge and junior faculty retention that could be achieved through potential promotion. The most underlining is actually savings to the institution themselves because they are the highest paid individuals on
Okay.
campus. So it's everybody wins in this situation. As you know, as long as the offering is attractive enough for somebody to say yes to a phased retirement, it is most likely more beneficial to the institution than the individual. So that needs to be said in that first bullet.
Anybody have an issue with that or? All right.
And that should probably be the first thing out the gate.
Does someone from CFO's office need to be on there then? Because an HR person may or may not be aware of the benefit, the financial outlook of the institution.
We can add a CFO rep from each system.
If he thinks it'll save him some money, we've
Oh,
got a guy.
I'm sure they would love to take part in that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Save them nominated from each system or the system?
Could be either.
Sure.
Let's see, a CFO representative or a CFO,
Representative from the CFO's office.
yeah, or something like that. Let's see. Or would y'all prefer an institution CFO?
About the system CFO or designate.
Okay, perfect.
Designate.
See, any other questions or comments on this recommendation? Okay, does anybody have a motion to include do I have a motion to include as a recommendation, the request for a legislative study of a phased retirement program?
Make a motion to include request for a phased retirement program.
Yeah,
Second.
all right. All those in favor of including this recommendation in the report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, perfect. All right, and now to our last one. This would be a recommendation to revise TRSL membership eligibility for new hires to make it optional under certain conditions. Gina had brought this up in the last meeting about issues LCTCS has with people from industry coming in.
Right,
Um,
mid-career, that kind of thing.
yeah, so right now, currently employees hired with the TRSL eligible entity have only an option to select DB or ORP. This recommendation is to allow newly hired employees the option to participate in the system. Optional membership would be available to newly hired members who were 60 or older at the time of employment, or those 55 or older who have at least 40 quarters in Social Security. Employees who elect not to participate in TRSL would contribute to Social Security, and this would not apply to rehired retirees. So any questions or comments on this recommendation?
This is exactly what they do with lasers. It's not just that same.
Yes.
You need that footnote for that then?
I don't think it has to be footnoted.
It may not hurt though. 'cause
Yeah,
like
that's
later
what I
on,
was-
and
yeah.
Other retirement systems doing it, then it may make it a stronger case.
So match language to lasers.
This would match current, current statute for state employees. Well, for members of Lasers.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this recommendation? All right, well then, do I have a motion to include this recommendation to revise membership eligibility? All right, and a second?
Second.
All right,
I'll abstain on this.
okay, Trey is abstaining. Let's see, all those in favor of including this recommendation, say aye. All opposed? All right, so that, let's see, that brings us to the end of the report recommendation that we would be including.
That was,
Yeah, no, you go first.
on the front matter and introduction and background, there's a couple places where I think we need to have consistent language.
Okay,
You mentioned instructors in the second paragraph, but all the way throughout, you talk about faculty. Can we just change that from instructors and researchers to faculty? Second is that second sentence, I think needs to be 2 sentences. Higher education is an economic development engine by creating skilled workforce, driving research, nurturing innovation, and the market for faculty and highly skilled staff is national. I think that needs to be reworked. I'm happy to
okay.
send over some recommendations.
Okay. One vote. Is there any other business to discuss? Oh, I'm sorry, Gina, you had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I've had other conversations outside of here, so I can't remember if we talked about it here or if it's been in other conversations. But I thought that there was one conversation that was discussed about that administrative fee that the ORP participants are paying. I'm like, can we eliminate that?
So, let's see,
Because our whole 8% doesn't go to our account.
right, so it's 0.05%
Right now
goes
it
to an
is, yeah.
administrative fee.
It's varied.
So then, I think, Trey, correct me on this. In the legislation that just passed in 109, that administrative fee is now split between the employer and the employee,
Starting in fiscal year 27.
27. So would it still be 0.05 or is it?
Yes, I would, well,
Here's a cap.
it's up to the board, our TRSL's board sets the, I don't foresee it changing, in the next couple of years. Depending on the number of people that leave the ORP, that may impact years down the road. That fee is set by our board in fiscal year 27. Employer and employee will split the fee, but the cap on the member's fee, in case the fee were to ever go up, the ORP participants cap would be 0.05. So if the fee went up to 1.2, then the institution would pay 0.07 and the ORP participant would be 0.05. So it's split unless the fee goes over 0.1.
And any change that would be, has to be a legislative change, because that is it's currently in law.
Or is that just your board?
It would be a legislative change.
So if we want, I'll find a common ground here. Do we want to have that as within the recommendation to
Legislative study?
no, I was gonna say, the membership piece, the task force or the advisory committee, that can be part of one of their items that they discuss.
So you can list that when we had that create. see how you have ORP terms, vendor selection, investments? You could
Yes.
add it into that column.
Yeah, we'll put administrative fee in there.
Can I make a small comment? I think there is a lot of or some bit of misinformation on this issue, and I was glad to be educated on this in the NASRA presentation. So Craig, please correct me if I'm wrong. This administrative fee is not peculiar to TRSL, like every state retirement system where we have DB and DC participants, they have this kind of a fee which is paid to DB, right?
I do not know. I would assume that Georgia does, because that's who we copied or would put in place. So the reason there's a fee here is we can't use any of the funds in the defined benefits trust to do any work on the ORP. So we needed a source of funds like, to hire the consultant, to contribute to staff time for our staff that works on ORP. So that's the reason we have it. I would assume it would depend on who's running the ORP program. If a higher ed institution was running it, there may not be a fee, because it may just be part of their budget. So I can't say how everybody else does it.
So I understand the fees required, but I'm just saying the employer should pay instead of the
Fine.
employee.
I don't know how anybody else does it. I just assume that Georgia has it like this because that's who we have to.
So is it possible that when we say, when we talk about the administrative fee, we can explain it a bit? What is it for?
In the report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hear me this conceptions about where that's going.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Let's see, so that would be on page.
So like hiring a consultant for choosing the. So the consultant hires the vendors in a way. No, you hire the vendor.
Board hires the vendors, but the
Consultant.
consultant helps to evaluate the vendors. And they help with putting out, help us write the SFP. But then the board is the one that actually chooses the vendor.
Does the consultant also look at the investment options to make sure that anything needs to be removed or added?
Is that word? Okay. Okay. Is there any other business to discuss today?
I just wanted to
Oh,
show
sure.
them
This is other business.
what it would. So obviously, this is the draft, based on the initial one that was sent to y'all, so you can just see what it looks like when it's all formatted. And if you want me to stop anywhere, just let me know. So the purpose behind it is, that way it matches our other, what feels like 50, but I think it's only 25 task forces that the Board of Regents handles. So it will look like this, and this is what will be sent to you, Dr. Oder.
Slightly prettier than what.
Yeah.
Shinier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Color.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll be provided these physical copies
Yes.
sometime.
Yes, this is what will be sent to the legislature, this report. It will be sent prior to board approval. So during our last board meeting, when we presented this information, we did inform the board that it will be coming to them, but because of timing frame, they will be essentially approving the report after it's been sent to the legislature. Normally, we do it, obviously, in the other directions. All I have for other business.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think like in these employer contributions for this table, we should explain a little bit? Or
And then.
like you explained it, but I think like many people would like to know like where does this employer contribution really goes in these tables?
Yeah, sure.
Like especially also for the ORP, it's more confusing because it's employer want to be 6.2%, this is not 6.2.
Right, yeah, so we can. We can add language there to say, you know, it includes the 6.2% plus the UAL
Even
cost, yes. And explain what goes into the contribution. Okay,
One. I do have the rates. If anybody's interested in it.
So what
Yeah.
was the highest rate?
is that the current rates or the historical rates? Okay, cool.
Um. It's like 7.09. Was the highest, that was back in 95, 96. Got down as low as 5.18.
It's 5.3 on the break, yeah, 5.18 be the worst.
Yes, we'll include that as an appendix. So then, any other business to come? All right. So the report is due January 10th. We'll make all these changes that we discussed, get that into the final version. And have that ready for everybody. I will make a motion to allow staff to make all these little changes that we've approved today, just so that any technical changes that need to be made. So I'll make that motion. Can I get a second on that one? Okay, second by Gina. All right. And then, I want to thank everybody for participating in this. This has been, I think we did a lot of work in a short period of time and in 5 meetings. I think the recommendations are very good recommendations that can be done and implemented and actually see change. And everybody taking time out of their day, driving in, even in fog to come in, shows your commitment to this work and to the members of ORP. And so, I appreciate everybody's support in this. And Regent staff for all the work they did in putting this together. And so with that, I will is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
all right, we are adjourned. ORP task force is complete.
Thank you.